Hello and welcome to the 717 Virtual Black Youth Speak Out. We first want to say thank you so much for taking the time to come here and voice your thoughts, voice your opinions on everything that's going on in the country. We wanted to create a safe space for everyone to be able to get their opinions out there without getting judged, because I know people may be posting things and like people might be sliding up and trying to like not let their voices be heard and try to like put them down. So we really want to create a space, especially for the Black youth, since this is directly affecting us, to talk about what's going on, talk about how we can make an impact in our communities and impact the country, and what we can do now to start creating a positive future for ahead. So that's, next slide. So now we're going to introduce ourselves and who we are.
Hi, my name is Janaea Presley. I'm one of the co-founders. I'm 20 years old. I attend Temple University right now. I'm a sophomore, and I graduated from CD East High in 2018.
Hi everyone, my name is Marja Allen. I'm also a co-founder. I'm 20 years old and I currently attend Indiana Tech. I'm an Uprising junior and I am a Susquehanna Township alumni.
Hi everyone, my name is Naila Burston. I am also 20 years old. I am one of the co-founders. I currently attend Delaware State University and I am a rising junior.
I'm Sean Harris. I'm 21 years old, also a co-founder. I graduated from SciTech in high school, and I go to Thaddeus Stevens currently. I'm a senior and plan on graduating.
Hello, my name is Adiola Adni. I am 20 years old. I'm a co-founder. I go to Howard University, and I am a 2018 alumna of Susquehanna Township High School.
Hey guys, my name is Trinity Seeger Barr. I am a co-founder as well. I'm 20 years old and I currently attend Morgan State University and graduated from Susquehanna Township High School.
Oh, and I graduated from SciTech High in 2018. So that's it.
So our mission statement is the Black Burg is a group that calls for the betterment of the city of Harrisburg by educating, liberating, unifying, and creating opportunities for the Black youth to create a positive future and unified community. Our vision statement is, we are here for the voices of the Black youth of the city of Harrisburg to be heard, to say how we feel without judgment, and to create a safe space for an open discussion on how to make a safe and positive community for all.
So just a couple of mental health hotlines before we get into this conversation, just to ensure that everybody is like as healthy as possible. The Disaster Distress Hotline, National Suicide Prevention Hotline, and SAM HSA Treatment Referral Helpline. I'm also going to drop this information into the chat so that you'll be able to access it throughout the entire presentation.
So we're going to get started with the conversation. Like Janaea said, if you want to speak specifically with this question is for anybody. So if you want to speak, just raise your hand or put your name in the chat and I can see whoever wants to speak, and I'll just call on you and then they'll unmute you. So the first question is, how am I feeling? How's my mental health? We know with social media, with the news, a lot is going on right now. It can be really draining and it can also be depressing to see these kind of situations happen all the time. And it seems like nothing is being done. Our voices aren't being heard and no one actually seems to care. I know for me personally, I've had to delete social media because it's just been very unhealthy and detrimental to my mental health. Learning how to take a break from it, but also wanting to be aware of what's happening in the world. So it has been difficult, I can be honest. And I think like this space that we're providing right now, it's important that we're able to talk about these things so we know what we personally want to do to make it better. Sharon? Oh, your hand's up. So the floor is open to anybody who wants to add on.
Okay, hello. It's me, Naila.
What's going on? Lord, what's going on?
Oh.
You're muted.
I just unmuted her.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, it works. Go ahead.
I don't know what was going on. I'm sorry for that. But honestly, with all this that's going on, and because I have other things outside of politics, I just feel like this is very overwhelming. It's unfortunate to see that history is in fact repeating itself. I have uncles, grandparents who have actually walked in the civil rights march, and they said nothing really has changed. So it's like, wow, you would think over decades and decades that things would have changed, certain things would have changed, but sadly, although the rules and laws and legislations and all this other stuff have been changed, nothing has really happened. It's all just dog whistle politics at the end of the day.
Anybody else?
I'll go. So I don't know about y'all, but I had a few mental breakdowns in the past week. And it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to take space for yourself, just from your normal life, because it's a lot. It's really a lot, and it really affects me. And one thing I realized, me watching those triggering videos and traumatizing pictures, I can't do that anymore, personally, because it really just me, and I don't need that to know that people are being treated. My people are being treated unjustly. So just try to, like, for me, what has worked is trying to manage the time that I'm on social media, Instagram or Twitter. It kind of has worked. It kind of hasn't, but I'm trying. So.
Tony has said she wants to speak.
Okay, mine is quick. So I definitely agree with Nye, what she said of everything being so overwhelming. I just wanted to tell everybody, like, feel free to take a break. We feel like we have to be constantly posting about it and being activists, as we have been for going on days now, but it gets overwhelming. That's not the first thing I want to do when I wake up every day. So, like, if you need to take a breather from posting a video or posting something, you have to do that for your own health too. You can always come back to being Black in a couple hours.
Yeah. I don't know. Angner? Sorry for
Anya.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me? My name is Anya.
Oh, sorry.
It's all right. I go to a school in Philly, and I'm a senior this year. Pertaining to the question, I would like to say that I feel like I've been suppressing my emotions a lot. Even when this all jumped off in the beginning of the week, I channeled my frustration and anger into empowering other people more so. And even when I went to the Harrisburg protest, I took time to myself and I said, why aren't you crying? Like, why aren't you showing emotion? Why are you kind of just watching it all play out? And it took me a while to realize that I've been suppressing my emotions, and I finally let it out and cried, I think, yesterday. And so I just want to make the point that it's okay to take a break off of social media. I know social media has been desensitizing us to the point where it's like, oh, another traumatizing picture, or oh, another traumatizing video. But take a break and really sort through your emotions and cry and let it out, because you really need to. It's not good to suppress your emotions.
Right.
That's all I have to say.
Okay. Thank you for sharing. Ileana?
Well, I just want to bring positivity to this. One thing that has helped me is meditating. I don't know if you guys do meditate, but just like removing myself from social media, and then also removing myself from politics and other people, and just taking the time to just meditate for 10 minutes a day has improved my mental health a lot. So I don't know if anyone would want to do that or likes to meditate, but I love meditating. So, yeah.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of apps that help with meditating and help you guide you through the process. And like Anya, right? Like she said, I think it's really important that we understand that it's okay to cry. tend to, as young people as well, we tend to want to be big and bad, and like we can go against anything. But at the same time, like we are literally living through another civil war, like civil rights, not war.
Yeah.
So we're really trying. I think it's important to know that we do have a voice and we are able to make the change, but you also have to focus on yourself and make sure that you're taking care of your mental health so you're able to keep on fighting and not get burnt out. And I also want to say again, this is an open space and we do want to be able to have discussion. So if there is something you want to say, just put your name in the chat and we can continue to have this discussion and dialogue.
I wanted to say one more thing. I'm sorry.
Good.
So the Love Land Foundation, I know that a lot of people, they don't want to ever come out and say that they don't have health insurance, but the Love Land Foundation actually helps Black women and they fund therapy 100%. Or if someone wants to, I don't know, pay 25%, they can. I know a couple people that have gone through that charity and they love it. So yeah.
All right, thank you for that. AC.
Oh yes, good afternoon, everybody. Of course, I think I'm the oldest in this chat. I came across this yesterday on Twitter. Just to give a little bit of background of myself, I'm born and raised in Harrisburg. Graduated 2004 from Bishop McDevitt. Graduated from Lincoln University 2 years ago. I'm an educator, a journalist locally, and an entrepreneur. I just want to say, I want to, encourage you all to never hold back your feelings. One of the young ladies made a comment just a few minutes ago that yesterday she broke down for the first time through all of this. And I can honestly say, as a 34-year-old Black man, yesterday was my first time breaking down. I was on the phone with a homie of mine getting ready to go to a protest downtown that originally was, had started because of the young man, the 14-year-old that got killed, I think a day or two prior to George Floyd. And then, of course, with the energy just being where it's at, yesterday's protest ended up being injustice and stop the gun violence. And I just want to, youth, you all do not get enough credit. And I want to just, again, I commend you all, and I want to keep encouraging you all to utilize your talents and your voice and keep organizing within your spaces. And if you could, embrace the older generations that actually do care about you all, because we need to learn from you. You have to learn from us. I'm not that far disconnected from you all age-wise. And I'm a firm believer that, unfortunately, like the other young lady said about her uncles and grandparents that fought, in the 60s and 70s, civil rights movement, I don't think this stuff is ever going to change. And I know that may be a really whack way of thinking, but I've learned history and I see where we are in the present time. And I'm always going to fight for legislation to be changed, for us, the disenfranchised, the marginalized, and things of that nature. As we continue to grow as a people, just stay educated and create your own opportunities and embrace those that are embracing you. I don't want to hold up too much time. I just, again, being, a couple decades in, I just want to, again, hats off to you all. I thank you for doing this. And I, just keep doing this. You all deserve this platform. Thank you.
Oh, thank you as well. We really will hope to create a space where people really feel free and open to speak about how they're feeling. And also, I just want to say that there will be another speak out happening for everybody to join. And there will be a psychologist by the name of Dr. Dawn Crossan. She's a Black woman. And so she will be there to speak about how we can go through this time and focus on our mental health as well. So just a little heads up. So we can go to the next question. How is this affecting the Harrisburg community directly? I know we're looking at a lot of big cities, Texas, LA, New York, Chicago. We see a lot of the things happening there, but we don't really understand what's happening in our communities that's directly, again, affecting us. So sometimes we have to remember oh, what change can we make here? So what is directly affecting us as a Harrisburg community? Anybody can go ahead and touch that.
I think I'll go. I think directly affecting Harrisburg community, it really brought us together. Like, even though it was something negative and bad that happened, if this wouldn't have happened, I don't think we would have came together like this. I really feel like, yeah, it brought us together to do something. See.
Tony?
Yeah, I want to piggy off what Sean said. Like, it's crazy because as much as people in Harrisburg love to always say Harrisburg can't ever get on the same page and we don't support each other, it seems like that's all we constantly hear. But when we needed to support each other, we showed up with no questions asked. Like, and though it was such a low moment that we were in, like it said, this is what pushed us to do this. It was such a beautiful thing as a city when we were all on the same page. Like, I think that's definitely undeniable. Like, we're all hurting together, but we also all see a better day ahead.
Mm-hmm. I also kind of want to add on to that. I think this also made me realize that even though what might be happening to the world is not as aggressive in Harrisburg, like it's definitely there, but it's not as aggressive. We can't be naive to the fact that it doesn't exist here, and we can make sure we stop it before it gets to that point. And like, there's definitely people with the same thoughts as with the people who are on the other side. It may be trying to not want us to voice our opinions, but again, it's really important that we as a community in Harrisburg make sure we also, like we're fighting for the overall cause, focus on Harrisburg as well, and what we can do as a community to make sure we, don't forget what's happening here. Anya?
Yeah, thank you. I just like to give some insight about what's happening in Harrisburg politics. So my neighbor down the street has been running for a spot somewhere in politics. I'm not sure if he's running for senator, congressman, but he's been running for years. As long as I've been living on the street on Acton Drive, he's been running, so I would say like 10 years. And the reason why he's never ever had the chance to win an election is because the politics are rigged in Harrisburg. They have a rule that if you are running and you are from outside of Dauphin County, you shouldn't be on the ballot. Now, these people who are running have rigged the system, and they're allowing for this injustice to permit. Now, I know the primary elections have already passed, but take a look within the politics and see if you can find some sneaky things going on, because that's what's keeping the voter suppression, and that's what's keeping us from really having an impact, is because these people have buddies. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
These people have buddies, and they know that they want their friends to win. They don't want a Black man to have a voice. So I advise for you to always do your research before you vote, and don't just vote Democrat because they're Democrat. That's not always the case. Sometimes Democrats have Republican buddies or have Democrat buddies that are not in our best interests. Thank you.
Anybody else would like to add to that? Going once.
I'll speak.
Okay.
Okay, so as far as everything that's going on right now, I haven't seen much of a change personally. Everybody's continuing with whatever they're doing. Everybody's just minding their business, honestly. The kids are just being kids, doing whatever kids do. The adults are secretly hanging out as much as they like to talk, that they're not hanging out with their friends. But I do feel like everybody is starting to wake up to what is happening around us and having a conversation about it and actually wanting to see things change, because I do believe a lot of people are tired of what has been happening over the last 40 some years.
Word. Ileana?
I think it's affecting the Harrisburg community in a good way, actually. it's really, white people are starting to wake up, and from my knowledge, this is the first time where white people are starting to be like, okay, this shit is actually fucked up. It's getting to the point where they want to learn, but they don't know where to learn. And I had to actually create a book club about white privilege and systemic racism. And they all seem like they want to learn. So, yeah.
That's good. Yeah, I think that, like you said, there's definitely positive that can come out of this for the Harrisburg community, to bring us together and to also make everyone aware. So yeah, the next question is, next slide. Oh, how do I want to see things change? I feel like this question is really important because we always say we want to see things change, but we don't actually make the actions or know specifically what we want to see change. We always just say the overall, I want to see things change. So this goes for the Harrisburg community, this goes for the world, this goes for everything on campus maybe. How do you guys want to see things change so we can also like take these notes down, and with the new group, we can like learn how to take the things that we've said here and actually make them actions. Taylor Banks.
Hello.
Hello, can you hear me?
Oh, okay. Thank you for unmuting me. My name is Nia, and I'd like to see things change by us spending our money in places that actually care about us, because money is power, and we keep giving away our power to these corporations and these companies that actually don't care. So for me personally, I think that it should take a lot more than a little personal statement that makes us feel good, a one-time donation, and that's it. But y'all have had several years, you know what's going on, and you're only choosing to speak up now because you're afraid you're gonna lose money. I think the only way we're actually gonna get anywhere is if we keep our dollars in our communities. So as far as I'm concerned, the only places that are actually like necessities, grocery stores because we need food, Black businesses because we need food, and local if you're supporting the movement. If you're not supporting my people, like, you gotta go. Thank you, that's it.
Add something, Adiola.
But I think Taylor Banks wanted to say something, and then you can go next.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Hi, I'm sorry. So when you mentioned like schools and like how you want to see change in your universities, I do a lot of that at my university. I go to Susquehanna University. I'm in a lot of diversity clubs, and my perspective is that like predominantly white institutions. So like there's like 4 phases. The first one is like self-care. Obviously, you cannot run yourself to the ground. If you want to like be there for your people, you have to be there for yourself. But other than that, I definitely like put pressure on your public safety, put pressure on your professors to learn about your culture. Like if they don't know about your culture, they cannot teach about your culture. And
Right.
be the same thing happening like in high school when it's like a skewed view. And it like puts a lot of like cognitive dissonance in your mind, because if you're trying to learn about yourself, but you're getting this wrong information, and then everyone else in the classroom has a different view of you too because of what your professor is teaching you. So there has to be pressure on them to do the right thing and to be actively anti-racist so that your college experience is safe. And other students, whether they're POC of different groups or white students, everyone has to be held accountable if they say something that is derogatory. And there needs to be pressure for that. And there's a lot of times where things like that get swept under the rug. So when we go back to school, definitely find ways that you can do that. Find clubs that you can join. Pressure the administration to be there for you. That is the whole point of your college experience, is for it to be safe and for you to grow. So I highly encourage you to look into those things. So thank you.
Thank you. Janaea, were you the one?
Yeah, along with what Nia just said, I know on Twitter, I saw Jamani, I think Jamani's in here. She made a compiled thread of Black businesses in Harrisburg. And I was gonna reach out to you, Jamani, and I wanted to make like a compiled post and that we could post so that people can spread, or a PDF, because I didn't know about a lot of them. Like I knew there were a few, but I didn't know about a lot of the ones that were on the thread. And I also just wanted to say, it's important if you have the energy to teach white people or non-Black people see, that's fine, but that's not your responsibility or duty. They need to do the work. We didn't create racism, white people did, so that's just my outlook on it. I personally don't have the energy to do that, but if you do, that's great. But I just want everyone to feel obligated.
Yeah, I definitely think education is power. And I think one thing I would like to add is that you cannot forget that there are some Black people, just because they're Black, they still are not really educated on what's going on. So they tend to say ignorant things and think that this situation does not affect them, even though it does affect them just as much as any other Black person. So education is definitely key. And like Janae said, it's not our duty to teach anybody. But at the same time, when we do want to see things change, we definitely have to let people know what is wrong and where it all stemmed from in order to create that change that we want to see, so we don't keep repeating history. Because this situation has been going on for 400 years. And the fact that we're in 2020 and we have people who were in the civil rights movement and, sees what we're going through and has flashbacks of what they were going through in the 50s, 60s, 70s. It's crazy to think that we really, really haven't progressed. Like there hasn't been any, there's been small progressions, but it seems like we keep taking a step backwards. So I definitely want to talk about, wanted to say that. Is there anybody else that would like to add on to this?
I just want to add on, I think Nia was talking about the economic standpoint of it. I think something that I would like to see change is just Black people really coming together to boycott certain businesses and not give their money to them, because that's definitely another form of power that they use to hold over us. So if we can start, like Janae was saying, our own Black businesses and support that, I think that's really important.
Lish?
Hey y'all, I was thinking about like with the community and joining them more together with like the arts. So like a platform where people can express themselves. Like in DC, they have like a lot of places like where it's like they'll have like paintings and they'll have like a platform of spoken word. It's just like a way to healthily express emotions, which I think art does well, and just like a way to gather people together as well.
Yes. Going to school in DC, I wanted to add on to that. Going to school in DC, they definitely have like open mic nights as well. And there's a lot of talent in Harrisburg, but we don't really hold enough open mic nights. And I know it's a way people express themselves. So I think that's definitely something that us as a group can also try to put together for you all. Lakaya?
Yes. Hi, y'all. It's Lakaya.
Oh, sorry, Lakaya.
You're good. I wanted to add in as well. Two people spoke on it about us having our own Black businesses, and I forget the young lady's name, but she said about like Black-owned grocery stores. And yeah, right now, like we have to go to Giant and go to these white people's stores and all that. But y'all gotta remember if you know your history and all that, because we weren't alive, but back in 1920 and stuff, they had the Black Wall Street. We had our Black banks, our Black grocery stores, all of our Black businesses. It's just that the white men, they destroyed it because they don't want us to have wealth. They don't want us to have money and be on their level. So I think us as a people, we have to start, getting our wealth, getting our capital up to see a change as well.
Definitely.
Jason, I saw that you raised your hand. Did you still want to speak? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm about to.
So what I was about to say kind of pertains towards like education, and I don't know what's the best way we can do it ourselves, but I really feel like systematic racism needs to be taught. Like I feel like a lot of people don't understand the fact that white privilege is a thing, and that's why there's so many opinions that spew around ignorance, and they're not understanding us only simply because of that. You know what I mean? So if there's a way that we can like continue to create clubs that cause awareness, get it into our school systems, get it into anywhere we can just put it out, I feel like that's kind of something that can help us.
Definitely. Daniel?
So I'm tying into what Jason said about education and clubs. I feel like one thing we could do is like start book clubs and start coming together and sharing ideas from what we read for ways that we can take what's happened in our past and apply it to the present. I feel like that might be a good thing to do because I've been spending the past week reading this book right here. I don't know if you all can see it. It's called The Destruction of Black Civilization, and it basically talks about how we went from being a highly respected people to becoming the most disrespected people in the world. And the author ends the last two chapters by offering solutions. He says that progress can never be made until we have nationwide unity. And I feel like a good way to establish unity is to start reading books and stuff so that we can all make sure that we're on the same page, because not everybody's aware of what's going on and not everyone has like the same mindset. So I feel like if we start reading books and start having dialogue exchanges, I feel like that might be a good place to start getting us on the path to progress.
Would anybody else like to add on to this? Anya? Anya?
Oh,
Sydney.
yeah, I like the idea of the book club. I'm all for that because during the summer I read anyway. I think that when we're home in the summer and we have off from school, I think that should be the most optimal time that we all get together. Maybe we do like some youth groups or book clubs, spoken word, just time to come together as one and set time aside to actually do that. I think the summertime would be a great opportunity.
Yes. Ileana?
Sydney, what is
So I do agree that it's not we shouldn't have to educate white people on racism because they did create racism. But personally, for me, I just feel as though I don't want a white person to talk about Black people and educate white people about Black people when they are just so disconnected from that culture. So that's why I made the book club in a sense, because I'm just like, you know what? I have power to teach them what needs to be taught.
Okay. I definitely think all these ideas that have been said are definitely beneficial. I was gonna say, I don't know if anyone listens to her, but No Name, she has a book club and she actually like goes to different cities and has like a in-person book club with each of the chapters that she's developed. So she also has a lot of like educational books on Black history and stuff like that. So it would be cool if we could also try to incorporate like maybe getting one of her books that she has for a book club and even try to get her down here to educate us on the book, because I know she's very knowledgeable in that sense as well. But these are all just great ideas. Sydney?
Hey guys, so wait, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes. So I guess this kind of just concludes everything that everybody is saying, but I think that the most important thing is that we start with a community. This kind of backing off of what Adiola said a little bit ago, that there are a lot of Black people, unfortunately, who are Black but don't still understand what's going on. So it is important that we do educate fellow Black people. And the reason that happens is, personally, I grew up in the suburbs. You know, I was never in the hood. I never saw things. I moved to Philly and it's a completely different story. And so I was even like, my eyes were open, and a lot of people don't get to experience that. So although there's the debate of whether we should educate other white people, I think that it is important that we know that no matter where we come from, no matter if we're from the city, from the suburbs, that we are still Black and we are still a community, and we have to come together, and that's where we have to start. We have to start with us first, and then we can do other things. But it just starts with us, and I think that that's important to know.
Thank you. We're gonna move on to the next question. which is, how has the conversation with my white non-Black friends been going? Personally, I have lost a lot of friends, unfortunately. And it sucks because you think that these people have been your ride or dies, have been defending you in the face of injustice and racism. And then when it comes to moments like this, like, I'm not even going to say they've said anything, which is the problem. Like, they've just been really silent. And the silence really just says a lot about where they stand on the situation. Because if you're not proud enough to even talk about or even try to defend me as a friend, then how can I trust you in other situations? What is the purpose of me having you as a friend if there's a situation that's happening and you have the ability with your privilege to prevent anything going wrong and you decide to stay silent? So it's just been it's been a really hard conversation. It's been a really awkward conversation because a lot of people are afraid to make people feel uncomfortable, but you have to make people feel uncomfortable in order to get to the next stages on how you can make this change happen. So I just want to say that the floor is open for anybody else. Tiara, TT.
I'd just like to say I've grown up in a predominantly white school all my life, so I have had this conversation with a lot of white individuals, and it's going like one or two ways. I know a couple of my friends right away, like especially my closer friends, they reached out and they said, "I'm here with you, what can I do?" Like they didn't know what to do, but they were asking. So I was like, okay, that's fine. I understand that you might not know exactly how to go about it. But there's also been a couple who just don't understand, and like they cannot understand what's happening, even if you try to like explain in the best way you know how. And they just, I don't know what goes through, but they just cannot fathom what we go through on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if anyone's found like a better way to explain it. Maybe I'm just not good at explaining it, but I felt like sometimes it's like talking to a wall and I just don't know how to get through to people. So if anyone has an idea on that, please tell me. But yeah.
I'm going to piggyback off of that. I have a friend just like that. It's like talking to a brick wall. And I think at this point, they're so set in their ways, in their mindset, that all you really can do is say your piece and then leave it at that. And what they choose to do with that information is on them. So, yeah.
Kiki?
Okay, so I went to Susquehanna. So I had a very diverse friend group, and it really hurts because a lot of my white friends and even like my POC friends have not reached out to me. And it's almost as if like, I don't know, it's like all that time was just fake. Like, I don't know, it's really hurts. Like, I'm actually getting kind of emotional right now, but like, it really hurts because I've had about 2 of my friends reach out to me about this whole thing. And on a normal, like a regular basis, like they wouldn't post about things when like this stuff would happen. And then when I started posting about how they aren't saying anything, then they started to say something, but yet they still haven't said anything to me. And it's like they know that there's like a problem, but they don't even want to reach out. So, and I also know that when I go to educate people, because a lot of people have been sliding up on my stuff and asking questions, and when I go to educate people, it's like you have to really calm yourself down. Like you have to take it really slow, and you really have to just like, okay, this is for the better. And even when they say dumb stuff back, because it always happens, they say something dumb back, it's just you really have to just calm yourself down and really like spell it out. Like, this is why, this is also why, here's an example, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like
that's what I've had to do. Prove yourself. Sydney?
So to answer Tiara's question, I feel the same exact way. I completely understand what you're saying. To me, so personally, some of my closest friends, my best friend is white, and beyond just this week, we've always talked about race issues. Like, she is my best friend. She's a person who cannot understand, but will do whatever in her power to understand, and she constantly speaks up. So I try and, my closest friends who are white, I don't have that problem with, but there are people who they just cannot understand. And as a whole, being a white person, no matter how much you try, like just because of the color of their skin, like they will not fully understand. But there are those people who are just on the line of trying to get it, of kind of sort of getting it. And then there are those people that are like talking to a brick wall. And when talking about whether we should have to educate white people or not, the people who are this close to kind of getting it, I do talk to them, and I am reaching out to them, and I am explaining things to them. The people who are silent, the people who have not said anything, the people who don't care to learn, just drop them. Don't worry about educating. Don't worry about talking to them. There is no point. They will never, ever, ever understand. But personally, with talking to my white friends, my closest friends are white, and I went to Susquehanna too, and trust me, I've about 50% of the people I graduated with, I do not speak to anymore. But there are, just surround yourself with people who at least try to understand, but don't strain yourself trying to explain anything to people who don't care to understand.
That was really good. Bree?
Okay, so I go to Central often, and I've been there since first grade, and I'm going into my junior year this year. And I've noticed like a lot of people who I thought were my friends, or like a lot of people who I go to school with, they're like silent, or they'll say, not my place to talk about it, which I feel like it is their place to, not their place to have an opinion, but it's their place to talk about like the issue at hand, because we need everybody we need everybody's help in this fight, because we need to be together. And I know a lot of like, I had a conversation with somebody yesterday, and they said, well, I just don't feel comfortable about the situation. Well, I don't feel comfortable living in my skin as of society. So I feel like white people being uncomfortable is like, that doesn't matter. Like them being uncomfortable with talking about an issue that's been making me uncomfortable.
Yeah. Was somebody speak? Okay. Jason?
Yeah, out of all my friends that I have that are white, I probably had one person actually like come back to me and actually like text me out of nowhere saying like, you know, I know what's going on in this world, and I just want to say I got your back and I love you. And that actually like hit me like really hard, because you would think, you know, I'm pretty sure we all have our own white friends, you know, that we care for, we're cool with, but you would think more people would come to you during this time to like say that they got your back. But in reality, a lot of them do not. And I feel like something that I don't think about sometimes is just the fact that for us, we talk about race all the time because we're living through this. Like, we live through these issues. This is our skin. But for them, it's like they don't speak about this at their home. They don't talk about this at all because it's not something that they have to go through. So that's really where them being uncomfortable really derives from. So when we're trying to speak to them out of nowhere with this, it's like they don't know where to begin. They don't know how to really sympathize with us, or at least have empathy for what we're going through sometimes, because they just will never understand. And I do appreciate those that try to understand, and I do appreciate, you know, those that are willing to listen. But I feel like until something starts at their own home, it'll be very hard for them to ever even begin to understand what we're talking about.
Right. Janaea?
I just wanted to add in, if you feel like your white friend or your non-Black friend isn't doing enough to support you, I just want to say, like, there are white people and non-Black people out there that do their own research. They read, like Ileana said earlier, that they're open to learning. I know personally, my white and non-Black friends, I didn't even have to ask them to post or like even talk to them about it. They were already on go. And I just think, like, don't settle in your friendships as well, because at the end of the day, they're not being a good friend to you if they're not there for you in any case. So if they're not there for you, especially right now, it's just like, you got to drop them. For you, you can try to educate them if you want, but just know there are white and non-Black people out there that will be on the front lines with you, no question asked.
Right. I wanted to add to that too, because I feel like a lot of the time we're scared about what they're going to think about us. but it's the fact that they're silent, which already shows what they think about us as people. And so if you're afraid of what they're going to think about you, or like, what are they going to say to your other friends, I think that shouldn't be something that holds you back from speaking your mind. I feel like as Black people, we're kind of pushed to just be silent and suppress our thoughts when we're in the space of white people, to not come across as angry, to not come across as aggressive. But I feel like, especially in times like this, when we have the conversation with our friends, we have to tell them, this is how I'm feeling and this is where I stand. And if you are not okay with that, then that just shows me that I don't need you. And yeah. Lakaya?
Okay, so I did just want to add, I didn't grow up in Harrisburg. I live in Mechanicsburg, so you know, the West Shore, the White Shore. So I have a lot of white friends. And at first when I was posting and going to the protest, I was like, dang, I wonder what my friends would say, my white friends would say and all that. So I did call my one white friend. I met her in college, and she even told me, she was like, Lakaya, you and we had another roommate. She was like, you guys are my first. So like, dang, you ain't have life. So I was like, dang, that's crazy. So I called her, just wanted to know like her views on it, because I was like, dang, am I about to lose a whole friend and all that? But it took me by surprise that she was actually really supportive. And she was like, she wasn't like, oh, I'm concerned, like worried about you going to protest. She was like, I'm worried for us as a whole, you know, because she's like, we're all in this together. She thought like this would have been ended, like we all did. Like we shouldn't still be going through all of this in 2020. But I just thought she was really supportive. And also like on my other social media, on Facebook, I have clients, because I'm a TSS, so I be in schools. Sometimes I got to go to people's house. When I first started with this one white client, the grandmother, it's not like the mother was saying it or the child, but the grandmother, she's over here like watching TV and there'll be a Black person on the screen. She's like, oh, look at that colored person, or just, she's always saying colors. So I was getting that vibe like, oh, y'all racist and everything. And it really, I already suspected that, but after I would post on Facebook, every single post I have, this client's mom would literally be loving it, commenting on it, all that. Then I'm over here posting Black Lives Matter, posting at the protest, and she's quiet, haven't liked the thing, haven't comment, nothing. I was like, oh yeah, I see how you come in. So this is definitely going to be real eye-opening to who we, you know, communicate with and be around.
Ileana?
Yeah, I'm just piggybacking off of what Janaea said. Don't settle. Like, my boyfriend is white, his family is white, and I didn't have my phone because I was trying to just get rid of everything with social media. And my boyfriend, when I did get my phone back, he called me and he was the first person to tell me about George Floyd. I didn't know anything about it because I wasn't watching anything and I was just going to work. And I just feel like if your friends value you, and just anyone in general, and they know that you are Black, they should be making so many strides and making that effort to make you feel comfortable without you even having to tell them. Like, I would make posts about Black Lives Matter and about the looting, and I was like justifying it, and my boyfriend's mom liked every single post, and her and I don't really talk. So yeah, don't settle.
And Naila's the last person.
Okay, so I'm just gonna piggyback off of what Janaea said as well. I feel like if a lot of your friends are not quiet, are not vocal about what's going on right now, and they choose to watch anything that you post that does not have to do with what you're talking about, like about Black people, like they'll react to something that's not related, like, oh, I had tacos today. Girl, I had tacos too. Like, did you not see me post about the injustice that's going on with Black people? Then you don't really need to talk about anything important with them. But that doesn't mean that they don't really want to talk about it. Sometimes they don't know what to say and they don't want to offend you. So I wouldn't say to take it personal, but I wouldn't say to take it too lightly at the same time.
All right. That was really a good conversation. We're gonna move to the next one. So how should we organize and what can we do? ways to get more involved and impact change. We kind of talked about what change do we want to see. Now we need to actually talk about what actions do we want to take in order to see the change that we want to see. Like I said before, we always just talk about it, but there's so much like power that as we as young people especially have. So Anya.
Anya?
Hello.
Yes.
So I'm noticing that a lot of us are college students. Maybe some of us are high school students. But for us primarily, I think the best way we can promote change is to be as involved on our campuses as possible. So for me, I'm the unity coordinator for the BSU, and my job basically is to unite the club with the campus. And actually right now, one of our main goals that I'm striving for is to get every club on my campus together so we can form a protest. We do not like the way that our school handled the response to George Floyd and the Black Lives Matter movement. They were very lackadaisical. They really didn't, they gave a vague statement. Oh, by the way, I go to Thomas Jefferson University.
Mm-hmm.
They gave like a lackadaisical statement. They really didn't put too much effort into it. And we just we're fed up at this point. And they constantly diversity that doesn't exist. So yeah, I guess my point is get involved on your campus as much as possible. We are currently working on a protest. So if there's any schools in the Philly area, I would like to get in contact with you so we can join alliances. I want to gather as much people as possible. The protest is projected to be around August when we start going back to school. So if anyone is in the Philly area that goes to school around Philly, please get in contact with me. Thank you.
Nia.
Okay, so for this, I kind of just want to reiterate what I had said before about like financial protests really needing to be important, especially because like if you look at history, during the civil rights movement in the 60s, that wouldn't have gotten any attention, wouldn't have gotten any traction if everybody didn't come together to convince everybody else that they know to stop riding those buses. The only reason that they were listening to them people is because the bus companies had to reach out to the government and say, you need to do something about this because we're losing money. Money literally runs everything. We're in a capitalist country. If we don't keep our dollars and our power to ourselves, we're really not doing much of anything. Like we can yell that we need equality, that we need justice all we want. But if we're still giving these people our money, there is nothing pushing them to want to listen. There's going to be nothing pushing them to have to hear this. So I say grocery stores and necessities only, honestly. Like, that's it. Grocery stores and necessities. Thank you.
That's definitely like something we should definitely take into, start organizing and trying to invest in Black businesses, because money is power and the Black community has a lot of money. And so once we start taking away the money from the capitalists and all that kind of stuff, we can really start making the change you want to see. Paula?
Yeah, so just to clear up any confusion, it is Justice's phone, but Paula's with me and she wasn't able to join the Zoom, so she wanted to speak. So here she is.
Okay, just something really quick. What I feel like could change our environment right now, and like just like Generation Z in general, is having educational reform. And what I mean by that is making classes like ethnic studies and like geography and all of those type of like classes where you learn about other cultures and you learn about other communities mandatory, not just making it a choice of where like if you want to inquire in taking a class, then you take it. It needs to be mandatory. It needs to be in our curriculum, because the history classes that we have now aren't doing us justice. They're not doing anybody justice. And they're spewing out lies and I feel like they're just putting it in one perspective and they're not doing it from everybody's perspective. So I feel like if we were to make certain classes like ethnic studies and geography and etc. mandatory, I think I would personally, and other people would see a change in how people around us view other people in general. That's my personal opinion on what we can do to make this place, you know, better, and just share, like, you know, our opinions and our experiences to make it like more relatable, so they understand. Like, if they're not having that conversation in their households, then they're having it at school. But the school is not doing that right now. So that's what I believe.
Next is Ileana.
So this is just an example, but I'm training right now to become a doula. And I'm also training to be, well, a birth doula and a death doula. And what I'm doing is I'm going to be charging my white clients more than what I'd be charging my Black clients. And when I do that, it's called the Robin Hood effect, where they will be actually paying like a scholarship fund for Black people so that I don't have to charge them. So that's something that you guys could do if you guys do offer services, is just charge white people more so that they can pay for Black people.
Yes. Who is Daniel? You're next.
Okay, so I think one of the first things that we need to do is to make our communities safer. We need to start decriminalizing our communities, because the author of The Destruction of Black Civilization, he talks about how most of the crimes in the Black community are Black on Black and not Black on white. And he says that's because of the socioeconomic conditions that exist in this country. And so because of that, so-called criminals commit crimes because they don't expect anything from the white community, because they know that white people are trying to oppress them. But at the same time, they have very little faith in their own Black community to help them. So I feel like if we start creating some educational institutions to educate people in the Black community, especially so-called criminals, about why things are the way they are, why Black people commit more crimes than anybody else, why certain things are the way they are in the Black community, I feel like that would be a very important place to start.
Tony.
Hey, I didn't have to go anymore, but I was just gonna say, when we were talking about how we're all pretty much college aged, and I think it was Anya was speaking about her school and what they have going on. So I don't go to a PWI. I go to Delaware State University, a historic institution. Hey. But I was gonna say, virtually, we've all been trying to do our part and hold each other accountable for protesting or doing what we can in our own collective cities. But we've decided to take a stance together and set a date to come together as a campus to make a walk. So I think it's just little things that we're doing. And a lot of people think organizing has to be a big turnout. It doesn't have to be hundreds of thousands of people. We can organize in small groups and still just take note, and just like we're doing now, and having conversations about.
Thank you. I'm looking at the chat. Nia.
Okay. Real quick, just to kind of piggyback off of what was said about us being like college age, and also about us needing to take the time to like educate ourselves. With us being in that like sweet spot right in between people that are under us and people that are older than us, I feel like we need to help them understand information outside of the stuff that they see on TV, because we know how mass media is. It doesn't matter if you're watching Fox, it doesn't matter if you're watching CNN, everything has a white agenda and tries to paint a really bad picture of how we are and how our protests and stuff are going. And it's up to us, people that can see people's posts, like tweets and Instagrams, like that are right in the mix, like to share that information with our parents and grandparents who only really know TV and radio and mass media. Yep, that was it. I'm done.
Thank you. We have Janea.
Yeah, I just want to say what I said about your school, Thomas Jefferson organizing. I reached out to you, but I know from my school personally, I go to Temple University again. We just found out that they do fund and invest in the Philadelphia Police Department. So sending out emails, and we just did a dive-in yesterday, also for George Floyd too. But that's what we've been doing, because a lot of universities, if they're a state school at least, they do fund the police departments in that local city. So that's one thing you can do and look into.
Crystal. Oh, sorry, Johannes, then Crystal.
You can hear me? All right. So one thing I did want to say was, what can we do is just to hold each other accountable, other Black people in particular accountable for not speaking up or not doing as much as they can to help the movement move forward. That's all I'm going to say.
Thank you. And then we have Crystal.
Thank you. I did want to say that it's really important that we support each other when we are doing the right thing, and that when someone is speaking out and sharing the proper information, that we have to make sure that, you know, we're supporting each other and helping each other know, you know, what to do. And another thing, I know it's a little off task, but I know that another really important detail is reform and coming up with a different system, you know, and having these solutions in place. And you know, having a system that is built on love and respect rather than fear and intimidation, and focusing on ways to reconstruct that, and kind of coming together as a community to find solutions is very important.
Right. Thank you. So that was the last person for this conversation, or for this question. We're going to move to the next question. So what do we want to learn? Questions we can answer for you in the future. This is just the beginning of something great in Harrisburg, something that we can always do to learn more and to progress as a community. But as we try to do more, there's a lot of learning and educating that we need to do amongst ourselves to educate other people. So what are some things that you guys want to learn? What are some topics that you guys want to touch? So if we can't answer it, because again, we are all the same age, and there might be somebody older than us or somebody in a different state that is able to educate us on the topics that we want to be educated on. What are those things that you want to learn? And maybe we can try to help with that in the future. Anybody?
Johannes, you can speak.
No, I wasn't going to say anything.
Oh, okay.
Ileana, then Sydney.
I want us to talk about the mortality rate in Black women while they're pregnant. I think that a lot of people aren't talking about it, and it kind of upsets me because Black women are dying by the hands of doctors more than police brutality in regards to Black men. And I mean, we're gonna give birth, but there needs to be a better system for us that listens to us while we're doing this, and it needs to be talked about.
Sydney.
So, I just graduated from Temple University also, and I'm like 50-50 debating on going to law school. I graduated with a degree in journalism, and the next step with journalism is either, you know, to be a writer or to be in law. That's a huge thing that journalists do. And so personally, I had to take law classes throughout college, but personally, there are a lot of nooks and crannies within the law that I think all of us need to know. A lot of the reason why this is happening to our community is because of racism, of course, but it is because a lot of us don't know our rights. We don't know like what's in the Constitution. There's just a lot of things that we need to learn within the law more than just this person is racist, but when you get pulled over, everybody needs to know their rights. When you're in court, you know, you just need to know what's right or wrong. So I just think that that's something that I want to learn, which is why I'm thinking about going back to school, going to law school, because that's where it starts, really.
Next was Janaea.
Yeah, Xavier asked in the chat, something else for he said, I can't read it. He said if we don't if we defund the police, something about something. But when I say defund the police, me personally, what I meant was the police's budget a year is like $400 million. It does not need to be that much, $100 million, $1 million something. It doesn't need to be that much. And the reason why that their budget so much is to militarize their force. They do not need tanks like they're driving around in tear gassing us with. They don't need half the stuff they need, which is riot gear. So yeah, because the police are not the military. They don't have any training to be the military. And so that's my personal opinion.
Anya. Is she still on here? Okay.
Hello?
Oh, she
Hello?
said.
Sorry, my dog was barking. Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah.
I had touched on this a little bit earlier, but I want to learn more about politics. And I would like the Black community to be more involved in the law, particularly. I really want to know why it is so hard for Black and brown people to be involved the way that white people are. If you look at the population, it's majority white all the time. So there has to be some interplay going on that's keeping Black people from having a voice. And that's really what I want to get into. Politics are not my strong suit, and I'm really not that interesting, but I'm willing to learn because I want there to be a gateway for minorities to have a voice in this country.
Who is next? Is it Ashawn?
I would like to learn how to tell other generations in our family about racism, because I personally feel that one day society will overcome like racism, but I believe that like that'll happen like beyond the lifetime of anyone here. But even though that's probably not gonna happen for a very long time, you can still have the mindset of what have you seen in your lifetime that could possibly is like a good thing or a positive thing of us overcoming racism, like seeing a Black president, seeing 2 Black attorney generals, all that type of stuff. But I feel like that if we have that type of view saying, well, what have I seen in my lifetime so far, then I feel that that would be a good way of overcoming racism.
Is there anybody else that would like to touch on this topic? Going once, going twice. Oh, Justice.
Yeah, hi. Okay, so what I had originally put in my RSVP too was that I wanted to know what everyone's view on colorism and how it can kind of divide the Black community. I wanted to know, more than I talk about it, what everyone else's views are on it. Just kind of with like how people like take colorism and how they accept it. Do you know what I mean? I just wanted to know the views, and I wanted to know more history about it and how we can overcome it as a society.
Yeah, well, we have the open floor. We can go into that question because I know there's also a couple of people who also want to talk on that. But we're gonna focus on like what we can do now in regards to the situation. But definitely, like we'll touch on that. Like that will definitely be touched on. But can we? I think Crystal, she said she wanted to talk on things that we want to learn in regards to this situation.
I'd like to learn some ways how we can incorporate this into like our social life a little more. Some really good ways to introduce it to our friends and to be able to start those discussions that may be a little difficult for some people. And also, you know, not just like when school's coming again, how to introduce that into our classes and stuff. Because I remember when it was Black History Month this year, my history teacher didn't talk about it, and I was like, huh. But my mom actually had some Black history like flashcards, so I brought those to school and I reviewed them with my class. Since he didn't do anything until it was about the last week, and he did 2 days on the Selma March for the whole Black History Month. So just like finding ways to step in and, you know, help not just with our friends, but in our schools.
Okay. We are taking note of this all, by the way. Just wanted to let you guys know. That's why we're asking you guys like what you want to learn, so we can provide you those resources and opportunities and events that we can learn about these things. Johannes?
Yeah, so one thing I wanted to share was on Twitter I saw this video, and it was this lady talking about how the system has been set up with white racists since the beginning. So one thing I do want to help everybody learn and help myself learn especially is how to get around some of the flaws in the system so we can get to the top and make it more fair for us and make it a change and make things happen so we can get out of this.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that wants to talk on this topic? Going once, going twice. Next subject. So we do have a Tony here, and she is a political science major, and she has a lot of great information, especially on politics and the justice system. So I want to give the floor now to Tony to kind of talk about some things, especially in the Pennsylvania area, about politics, voting, in the justice system. So Tony, the floor is now yours.
Hey everybody, how are y'all? I hope as good as we can be right now. So, like Adiola said, my name is Atoni Lynn Cooper. I am a rising junior at Delaware State University with a major in political science, minor in law studies. And I pretty much am studying to become a politician and also a lobbyist for mass incarceration and just the betterment of our Black and brown communities. But I came to touch a little bit today about the voting process and why your vote matters now. So I'm sure you've heard people beating in your head that the primaries were on Tuesday. Governor Wolf actually did extend the deadline, the counting deadline, to submit your mail-in ballots. So though it was due Tuesday, he extended it 7 days from June 2nd. So if you are a registered voter in Pennsylvania and got a mail-in ballot and didn't get a chance to turn it in, you can still go submit it. You can do that on 2nd Street at the Building of Administration. There's a check box outside. You just drop it off. You don't have to see anyone, talk to anyone, but you can drop your vote off. You just have to mark it for June 2nd, which was the day of the primaries in Pennsylvania. But the whole purpose of even voting and why this primary vote matters is because it doesn't just determine who's going to be president. It determines who we put up as our Democratic or Republican nominee. And I wanted to mention there was a immoral agenda on this year's mail-in ballot. When I went to fill it out, and the hundreds of other people went to fill it out, on our Democratic ballot, it still lists Bernie Sanders' name and Joe Biden's name. And I know a lot of people don't know this, which is how it could sway and come across the wrong way. Biden announced that he removed his candidacy weeks ago. So by adding his name to the ballot, it is to pretty much lessen Joe's poll numbers, so it doesn't look like he did as well in the states that he did. So I know everyone's not Democratic, and you shouldn't. You should always look at who you're voting for. I'm not biased to one party. I'm just speaking on behalf of the majority. So if you haven't done that yet and you still have your mail-in ballot to fill out, please read it carefully And I'm not telling you who to vote for, but I'm telling you who's not running anymore. So let's just put that on record. It also lists the names of people who are running to go to the National Democratic Convention, which is where they send delegates who are representative to voice our concerns from our communities and for our parties. So when it lists the names of those delegates, it also lists whose party they were a part of. This is where you can still submit Joe or Bernie's delegates. If you wanted to vote for Bernie, but you can't because he's no longer in it, you can still vote to send his delegates to the convention to voice our problems that are affecting our communities. Or you can send Joe's delegates. It doesn't matter, but I just wanted to explain that to everyone who may not understand the process of voting. And I'm not going to keep you long. This is going to be really quick now that we got through that. Also wanted to touch on some of the capitalism that's been happening since the whole protest that has erupted. You know, we talked about how we wanted other communities to speak. We didn't expect much of our non-people of color except to not be silent. We just wanted you to say something, acknowledge that our life matters and our movement matters. And if you've noticed, a lot of mass corporations, celebrities, organizations have posted a black sign. Remember Blackout Tuesday? They posted something for Blackout Tuesday or closed their business. And it just made me think, how much of this was genuine? And have they finally understood the value of the Black dollar? Now, I discussed it with someone else, but I want to present it to you all because we really need to think, and I want to hear some conversation about it because I don't have a stance. Did they stand with us and with our movement and our protest by speaking about these companies? Because even I know Fashion Nova did, Apple Music said something, Nickelodeon said something. Is it because you don't want, are you scared to piss us off? Is that what it is? You see us burning, you see us looting, you see us rioting out of emotion and out of passion and out of a movement. Are you speaking because you care about what we're doing, or you don't want us to cancel you because you know you can get canceled in 2 seconds with us? So I just been thinking, like, how much of this support is genuine and how do we receive it? Do we want to receive it as this is what we're fighting for? We finally made them understand what our dollar is worth? Or is it ingenuine, and are they just going to revert back to doing the same things that was happening once everything goes back? So these are just some of the things I want to present. I'm about to look in the chat to see if anybody said anything.
Oh shit. Sorry. I'm sorry. I had to clarify something. Excuse my profanity. Did you mean that Bernie took his name off the ballot, or did you mean Biden?
Neither. So I think it was in March. It was one of the weeks in March. Bernie announced that he was no longer running for president and put his support in Joe Biden as our Democratic nominee. And that is a public process which has to go through nationally to understand he is no longer running for president. So by putting his name on the ballot, which holds no place anymore, those votes are pretty much going to wait. Now, I'm not saying a miracle is going to happen and everyone just miraculously rewrote Bernie in, but that's not likely for someone who's already announced he's no longer running. So his name is on the ballot as a distraction to lessen Joe's numbers from Democrats. That was all.
All right.
So you wanted us to open the floor for discussion on like how we feel about the genuineness of these companies?
Like, how do you feel about what these people are saying and reacting? Are their posts really to benefit the community, or are their posts so that we don't boycott them for 3 months?
I wanted to touch on that because I feel like there's a lot of things that have gone on behind the screens, even before any of this happened. So how much are they paying their Black employees compared to their white employees? What are the benefits that they're giving Black employees compared to the white employees? You know, it's things like that that really show like, okay, are you really with us? Like you're saying you're with us in this moment because you know that we are your biggest customers and we're your biggest consumers? Or are you saying this because you genuinely care because the way you respect your clients? Kind of like Starbucks, for example, like like Starbucks may say that they value all of us, but do we know how they might have handled that discrimination issue that happened with the 2 Black men in, I think it was Philly, the racial profiling, like how that went, and did it actually result in something positive? And so how companies handle situations like that, like the small things that don't get everyone's attention in the world, how do they handle those situations? So I don't know how you generally feel about what's happening right now.
And with that, I wanted to say, we shouldn't be so easily impressed by a people. Just because they posted a Black screen and said our business supports your movement, should we fall for this? Like, oh, well, they're on board because they put a Black picture up today. We're going to leave it alone. No, because your Black employees still don't make the same. You still, it's just so much. It goes on and on. Like, why are we so easily satisfied?
Right.
I'm not letting up. Sorry, that's not enough.
Can I add in a little bit right here?
Yeah.
I know, like what you were saying, like they'll post a Black post, but it doesn't mean anything. I don't know if y'all use GoPuff. It's popular in Philadelphia, but like it sends your snacks and stuff, and they'll drop it off. They posted a Black screen and said they stood with their Black community and their Black customers, but they also fund the police too. They send them $1 million plus a year for the Philadelphia Police Department. So just really don't fall for it. Look into who they're investing in and who invests in them. So that's just what I had to say.
Yeah, like you guys are saying, I think it's too easy to like post something on social media. They got to show us actions that they're really with us and they're really against racism.
Yeah.
Even companies who have funded Trump's campaign have put up Black screens, and it's like, how naive do you think that we are, that we don't know what you do behind closed doors, that you think we're going to see this post and scroll and you get a pass? You still funded a campaign. You still funded these corporations and these companies. So that's it.
I wanted to add one more thing as well. I feel like this happens a lot in the Black community. Once somebody made it out and they finally get to rock the Gucci and rock the Fendi and all that kind of stuff, but then they forget that what those companies are doing. These companies know that, like, whereas I know some, what's her name? I forget her name, but the girl that was crying about Gucci and how people were looting Gucci. Like, they know that they have our money. And there's so many Black companies that do the same thing in better quality than these racist companies. And so once we start putting our money in them, like, the way the world is going to turn is going to be something crazy. And I just think, like, there's a whole list of people who have been funding the police. Chick-fil-A, everybody knows Chick-fil-A is not, y'all, I mean, I love the fries as well, but they really not it. And we really need to stop giving our money to Chick-fil-A, if I'm going to be completely honest. And I know that's really hard, but listen, once we are able to live our life freely, then no sandwich is going to, make me turn my back on what's actually happening. So someone said I'd like to talk. TT?
I just like to say also with like the whole Black screen thing, I feel as though we should also put that on as a whole, because I know I definitely saw a lot of people pop out for this Black screen that didn't say a single thing any other time, and they almost use that as a trend, and it's a trend to care about us. Like, it's not really how, like, I know specifically people around here probably know about it, but a couple years ago, there was that whole picture that circulated. I'm not going to bring it up if you don't know about it, but like, there's that. And the girl who posted a Black screen like it was okay. And I was like, it's just, you can't just post a Black screen and expect us to like take that as you're with us anymore. Like, I feel like there needs to be more to it. And yeah, that's it.
Someone said may I speak? I'm sorry, Crystal.
Oh, there you go. All right. I do like what everyone was saying. I feel like, because a lot of these things that we can support on our own, we can cook our own chicken sandwiches. We can do our own things, and because like we are all independent, and we can. These are a lot of like material things, and that in of itself, regardless of it being against us, it's a lot of with the capitalism and just kind of take our money. Not only are they taking advantage of us socially, they take advantage of us economically, and that's something that we have to recognize. Start doing our research, and that's okay. And with us being in quarantine, we have more time to do that and more time to find out ways to support each other. And another important thing, what was I just saying? Okay, yes, and with the black pictures, with the black squares and all that, when I saw like a lot of people doing that, they were tagging hashtag Black Lives Matter and blocking the whole thing up and ruining everything, trying to do their own little thing. That wasn't for me, but it's just like seeing those things happen, because again, I feel like some people are confused. They have their hearts in the right place, but they're not sure how to do it, and it just ends up messing things up. And being able to like try and direct people and educate people as much as possible is really, really important, because a lot of times that, not just companies, I'm talking about individuals as well, they may not have the proper instruction on how to be able to help. And I feel like if we really reach out together as a community and be able to help people in the best way, thank you.
Tony, so we can like wrap up this section and move on to the next.
Yeah, so I just kind of want to leave you all, I guess, with a thought to think about. Doesn't really require too much conversation because it's really debatable. How do you all feel about people who've participated and created these challenges of posting themselves with chain captions about their blackness? And I saw a little bit of it. I'm like, okay, this is a nice celebration. We love our black skin. And then, or do you think it's taking away from the cause and it's becoming a trend? Like she said, it's a trend. It's like, tag all the successful black women or black men share this with 10 people, and it's like, do they even know what we're doing this for? Do those 10 people know what this is for? So just want to leave you all with this thought before we got off or wrapped up. So not telling it's right or wrong, because I don't know how I feel either, but just think about it.
Okay. Are we moving on to the next one? Or are we touching on that subject?
We can touch on it for a little bit.
Okay. Because I did want
wanted to. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say something. Sorry.
You're good.
I was gonna say, like, I do like how we're like how people are deciding to like post about themselves in terms of that, like saying, we are black men, we're a black woman, like celebrating ourselves. But at the same time, in reality, at the back of my mind, I'm like, this ain't doing that for us.
Right.
At the end of the day, like, okay, we posting, cool, then what? You know what I mean? Like, it's not really doing that much to change anything. And that's how I feel.
I will just say one thing and then I'm done. So I believe that it's kind of like a trend, but if that's all they are willing to do, then I just let the people who partake in the trend rock. Because if they're not comfortable with going to the protest, if they're not comfortable with like donating their money because they probably don't have money, then who's to say that they shouldn't partake in the trend? But that really shouldn't be all that they do. If they can donate, they should. If they can sign a petition, they should. If they can attend a protest, then they should.
Mm-hmm. All right. So we're gonna move on to the next topic, and that's the open floor. There were so many people who wanted to talk about so many various things, from colorism to going to school at a PWI, how to avoid being burnt out, white guilt. So we just wanted to give this time to talk about any of those things that you want to talk about. So Crystal has said that she would like to talk, and then anybody else can also just add on, but just make sure to put your name in the chat so we don't dwell on this topic for too
Or
much.
raise your hand.
Right, raise your hand. Crystal.
All right, there we go. This is an experience that happened in my freshman year, and being Black and Latina, as I talked with Nelia earlier, it comes with like different experiences because people make a lot of assumptions about my background a lot, and you know, being raised Black and Latina, it can become like confusing for people because then they make assumptions about what they can do around me. And in this case, I was in an environment where I was the only female and the only person of color. And these boys were playing around, and then one of them said the N-word, like with the hard R, and it was like inappropriate and violent in the way he was saying it too. And I was like, no, you're not doing that here, you know, no. And trying to call him out, and he just got more violent and upset, and I didn't control myself, and I got mad too, and I told him, pardon my language, but bend over so I can hit the fat on your ass so I don't have to hit the fat on your face.
Oh.
Yeah, I was really upset, and I had a metal leveler in my hand. So you see it, yeah. And he didn't budge, so I struck him, but then I got back to work, you know, because, you know, I'm not about that. If I'm going to address the problem and get back to what I'm doing. But then stuff happened later, and yes, I ended up getting OSS and ISS, as did he. But with that situation occurring, that wasn't the end of it, because then this year when I tried applying for National Honor Society, I wasn't accepted because, yes, thank you. But I ended up not getting accepted because they said that they were going to excuse the OSS because of something optional, because of the environment that had been created around the school because of what I did. And it was unsafe for me. And they didn't take it off, and it was still used against me. Whereas other students who I knew had similar charges against them, or like actual charges against them, they were still allowed to. And maybe it was because my last name has more than 2, you know, variables or something like that, but they were not treating me the same. And it really upsets me that that thing continued on when I had still like shown remorse and showed that I had not dealt with that in the same way, in the proper way. And yeah, that was just one of my personal experiences. But oh my gosh, there's so much I have to talk. I'll talk about the other thing later, but yeah, that's it for now.
Okay. Daring. Janaea says she would like to go next. And anybody else would like to go, just drop your name in the chat so we can just continue to go down the list.
Crystal, what school do you go to? Can you put that in the chat? But I want to talk about colorism because I know Paula had asked about it, but she left. But for those of you that want to know the roots of colorism in America, at least, it was through slavery. If you know Willie Lynch letter, then you should read it. And just read it and then come back to me. But that's where colorism stemmed from in America. But I think today how it manifests itself, I think with police interactions at least, I feel like white passing people sometimes have less interaction with the police because they're not visibly Black. It doesn't denote their Blackness at all, but that is that colorism does differ in police interactions. Like if you're more darker skin, brown skin or dark skin, then you do face police interactions just a little bit more than a white passing person does.
Anybody else that would like to take the floor? Anya?
Yeah, I'll speak on colorism. If you're darker skin tone, if you just interject or interrupt me if you want to speak first, because I'm light skinned. Colorism really, it disturbs me a lot, especially as a light-skinned woman, seeing how other light-skins act. It's very disgusting. And the way people don't believe that there's no such thing as light-skin privilege, that's gotta stop. I really try my best to uplift dark-skinned and black-skinned women, but I also try to denounce the notion that light-skin privilege does not exist. Light-skin privilege exists, and I learned this at a very young age. There's no way that as a light-skinned woman, I'm reaping all these benefits for no reason. So I feel like as
being a light-skinned individual, it's the accountability. Taking responsibility for receiving all these benefits and not saying anything about it. I've never experienced in elementary school or middle school someone turning the lights off and saying, oh, where did Anya go? Or someone comparing my skin tone to something dark. I've never understood that pain before. And this light-skinned persona, being light-skinned is superficial as it is, it goes so much deeper than that. It becomes a personality. And like, why do light-skins act light-skinned? Like, it's not cute. It's really not cute. And it bugs me to my core because like, why are you acting like that? Why are you acting too good and stuck up? And that's my piece on colorism.
Mm. Would anybody like to add on to that?
I would.
Yes.
Okay. So, going off of what Anye,
mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you. Going off of what Anye has said, speaking from a dark skin perspective, I have unfortunately dealt with colorism, and I will say that light skin privilege is a thing, but I have had friends who, when they notice that they are being treated better than I was, then they would try to call out the behavior. So I feel as though if you do have light skinned friends who are acting as if they are better than their dark-skinned counterpart, then it is okay to call them out on it just as much as it is okay to call your white friends out on their racism. Sometimes they don't really know that they are being stuck up or that they're being a colorist until somebody points it out. So if there is a teacher that's just like, oh, I'm just going to separate the two of you, like, no, she can do what I'm doing because we're both Black at the end of the day.
Tony?
So I wanted to speak more of how we can attack colorism. I know we've all understood it, we experience it. Maybe everyone doesn't experience the harsh end of it, but you know someone who has. And we have to take our experiences of colorism and make it our responsibility to rewire the next generation of little Black and brown kids, because I can't speak for anyone else, but I know colorism wasn't a thing when we were kids. Like, it was just the little light-skinned pretty girls and the little light-skinned cute boys, and then it was like, oh, the Black kids. Mm-hmm. So, but no one talked about it. It wasn't a thing. It was just life. We need to really, really, really like drill into our children and other people's children, any children you come across, the way we do ABCs and 1, 2, 3s, that their color is just as beautiful as a lighter color. Men and women, like light skinned and dark skinned boys deal with the same thing. But that was all I wanted to say. Just we need to make it our responsibility and hold ourselves accountable to help the ones coming up, to give them more support and understand how beautiful they are.
Jason, then Johannes, then Sean.
Yeah, I was gonna say that as a dark skin, I don't even like saying the term dark skin, because at the end of the day, we're all Black. No matter how you want to look at it in terms of a color, we're all Black. But I think it's important for all of us to understand that regardless if you consider yourself more fair skin or light skin or dark skin, each side kind of has their own issues. Like, I feel like for a long time growing up, I almost had a little bit of a resentment towards people that are more light skinned, only because I used to feel like they don't understand what it's like being called midnight, or like black as concrete, or whatever the case is. But at the same time, in terms of like for those that are even mixed, like they have to deal with not being Black enough or still being too Black to be white, you know what I mean? So like we all go through our own issues, and I feel like if we come together, it would really solidify our point with, becoming stronger.
Johannes?
Yeah, I agree with everything Jason was saying, but on the opposite end of that, I'm just going to say that I've seen even how you say dark skinned people, and they've been through the colorism on the phase that they were saying, oh, since you're light skinned, you're not really black, and you're not like as black as you can be, and you're not like for real black. I don't know how else to put it, but and it's been like, oh, they should hold themselves accountable for that, because it's not right to be in a state where, oh, this is black and this is not black when it's all the same.
Yeah, I definitely agree with both you guys are saying, but colorism is really just another strain of racism. Like the fairer the skin, the better it is. Like how the media will portray a white woman as like the standard of beauty is the same way this colorism is. They're trying to get us to divide ourselves within ourselves. So we really just need to break down this whole thing, and everything is good. Like there's no such thing as dark, like you're darker, you're better, or lighter, you're better, better hair, none of that stuff. It's just we all good, we all black, we all doing our thing. That's it.
MacBook Pro. Oh, that's my brother. LOL. Dola.
Yeah, that's me. Like, overall, I like to like I think like once we do our part, like to like, stop like all this crap that's going on, like we still need to say that like white people, like they need to do their other side of the deal, because you know there's always going to be like that person with the Confederate flag and like all these like Trump supporters that like are not like thinking the situation is like a joke and just be like, you know, like talking crazy about us. So like that's what I think. Like they need to do their side for there to be the change.
Was there anybody else that wanted to speak? I kind of want to touch on the colorism as well, because I feel as though colorism has been like, it's also plays a part in self-image for dark-skinned women especially. I know growing up, I don't know if anyone else can relate to this, but growing up, I used to always wish I was light-skinned and wish, because this seemed like everybody else that was light-skinned seemed to get all the opportunities. Like for roles in acting, I used to do musicals, and I definitely was denied roles because I was dark-skinned, and they might have wanted somebody else that was light-skinned or fairer to be the image, because that's what they identify beauty as. And people don't realize that the small things like that occur high school, middle school, really are detrimental to the self-esteem of a Black woman to this day. I'm not even going to hold you. Like self-confidence has always been something I struggled with, and it definitely was because of the way that people used to view me as a dark-skinned woman. And then like, oh, because I'm dark-skinned, I'm more aggressive compared to a light-skinned woman, or like they automatically have assumptions about how I'm going to come across as a woman. And they seem that they attach a negative connotation with my skin compared to another light-skinned woman. So I just wanted to kind of talk about wanted to touch on how colorism definitely affects self-image. And yeah, Naila.
So to go off of your self-image topic, because I am a dark skin, as you can see, you can't really see me right now because my back is to the light, but I don't know why I just said that, I'm sorry. Anyway, because I grew up as a dark skin, my confidence is kind of different compared to everyone else, because it was always, oh, your parents left you in the oven for too long, and you look like a hockey puck and all this other type of stuff. So I just feel like because of what I went through, I kind of make it a point in my life to recognize other dark-skinned girls, other dark-skinned little girls, and tell them, oh, you are so pretty, your hair is so gorgeous, I like your hair, and all this other stuff. And it kind of breaks my heart when they say, I am? You really like my hair? Oh, thank you. And sorry, I kind of just had a brain fart. But when guys say to me, it's always,
something like, I never really dated a dark skin. You're kind of the first dark skin girl that I dated that I found attractive. Like, that's not really a compliment. So if you, my listener, are one of the guys who say to dark skinned women, you are kind of one of the only dark skinned women that I find attractive, that's not a compliment. It's not a compliment. That's kind of a backhanded compliment, and it's also an insult at the same time. So please do not say it anymore.
Next is Crystal. Oh, yes, next is Crystal, then Sydney, and then we can kind of wrap up this section.
Hi. Another point I wanted to bring on, my grandma, she grew up in Virginia. She grew up in the South, and she actually did sit-ins, and was like a witness at like a bunch of protests and stuff. And she witnessed like the violence that occurred just for trying to sit and get a meal. And even in my grandfather, he grew up in Prince Edward County, and they shut down the entire public school system just so they wouldn't have to integrate, and he had to go to school in a different county. So just those things. And they were light skinned, and just like going on like those little details. And when we try and determine someone's value based on their skin, regardless if you're light skin, dark skin, anything, that really destroys society. And we have to learn to love beyond all of all physical appearances, based even based on your abilities and any of that. And I feel like when we're able to account for people as who they are rather than who they are on the outside, because those things can change easily. If I get my arm cut off, if I get burnt all over my skin, if you can go through so many things physically. We have to realize that there's so many certain components that we've been fighting for so long, and that we can't stop now, and we have to keep going. I yield my time.
Wrapping up with Sydney.
So really quick, all I want to say is hearing you guys talk about, your confidence and the names that you got called and all of that, I do want to say, and I fully mean this, like, you guys are so freaking beautiful. Dark-skinned girls are beautiful, gorgeous, and I love you all. And really quickly, I just want to say, if you need anybody to talk to, any type of uplifting, anything, I am here for you. I know majority of you don't even know who I am, but I am here for you. And it breaks my heart to hear you guys say that about yourselves, because I'm literally scrolling through all of these videos right now of all of you sitting here, and you're so beautiful. And I don't ever, ever, ever want you to think anything less of that. So I'm here for you. If you guys want my Instagram, my number, anything, if you ever want to talk to me, I'm here for you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sydney. Okay. Wow, that was so nice. Okay. Next, I think. Okay, so we were talking about education and all these kind of things and how we can stay educated on the topic. And so I just wanted to give a list of books, movies, and podcasts to be educated and informed. When looking at the situation at hand and like things that will really help us out, this information, these books came up to my mind, and I got some recommendations also from other students from Howard and from here as well. So this is a list of books. If you want to take a picture, you can. We also will drop a slide on our Instagram page for like books, podcasts, and media, films, all that kind of stuff that you guys can read. So the next list is podcast. These are some really good podcasts. Shameless plug. I do also have a podcast. I talk about Black culture and curate it. I talk about the awkwardness that is young adulthood, because nobody really talks about how awkward young adulthood is, especially as a Black girl or a Black person in general. So those are some of the things I talk about. But The Nod also is one of my favorite podcasts, and it makes learning about Black culture fun. So I highly recommend The Nod as well. And all these other ones are just super good podcasts to read. So if you want to take a picture. And then these documentaries, these movies, these speeches, very important, very, 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 very important to stay educated and see what has happened in the past, in order so we can learn from the activists and the leaders of our past. Use some of their tactics, use some of their strategies, and put them to today, and see what we can use from there that will influence what's going on today. And if you do have any good suggestions, just drop them in the chat. We can put them on the Instagram. But I did really want to share these these books and podcasts and all that stuff with you guys, because I really want everyone to be educated. And yeah. So that was it for this 717 Black Youth Virtual Speak Out. Y'all, this was just an idea literally on Sunday, and to see it come out like this on a Thursday, a lot of people signed up. A lot of people stayed through the whole thing. We knew that people were going to leave, but the fact that we still have a good majority of people on here, it just really shows that once we are able to organize as a community, as the youth, we can really make a difference in our community and see the things that we want to see happen in the future. So again, thank you so much. We did want to say there is another Speak Out happening, and this is a Speak Out for you to invite all your white friends, people of color, everybody. We have Judge Morris. He is the first, no, not the first, sorry. He's the only Black judge in Harrisburg, and he works with the juvenile system. Dr. Don Carlson, the psychologist, Pastor Allen, he is the head of the NAACP here, Minister Trey. There's so many people in power and leadership positions in Harrisburg that will be at this Speak Out. I also wanted to drop this in the link in the chat real quick. It's a link to a feedback form. So we just want to get your feedback on how this went and things you want to learn in the future, events you want to see happen from this group in the future. We really want to make Harrisburg a great space for the Black youth, and really want to bring it back to just the community of us having a bunch of fun and just learning and educating ourselves. And also on Juneteenth, there will be a vigil, a memorial type event at the Greater Zion Missionary Baptist Church parking lot. We will get you guys more details later, but I did want to say that there's going to be a vigil in memory of all the Black lives that have been taken at the hands of white supremacy, police injustice, and all of that. So I really just want to say again, thank you all for coming. Follow us on social media. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to email us. Our email wasn't working today for some reason, but I just saw that it sent like four of the emails we tried to send to y'all. So that is our email. If you guys have any questions, just send it to us. And we will be asking for consent to create a video. For those who missed it, we'll be putting this recording out to the public, and we'll kind of edit a video. So we'll be asking for those who have spoke today if we can have your consent to put it in the video and share it with everybody else. But again, this has been so amazing, and we just want to say thank you again for coming out. So yeah.
Thank y'all.
Have a great night, y'all.